Today on this episode, we are going to dive deep into how we are energetic beings. I mean, you might already know that, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how our energy affects absolutely everything around us and how what we're projecting out is coming back and affecting our health. It's affecting our frequency. It's affecting how we sleep. It's affecting us as a human and how it's affecting other people. But also, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into not so much woo-woo anymore because there's so much science that backs up how plant life and trees have a consciousness and how everything is connected. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start off by explaining a little bit of where I come from so that see how you resonate with this, and maybe this will give you a little bit more insight. So first of all, I have a very open mind to a lot of different things. I believe in a lot of things, and I've had a lot of experiences over my life that has really broadened my perspective of, there's so much more out there than what our eyes see and what, maybe science says that there is. I believe that. I mean, we take, for example, of the topic of love. You can't magnify love. There's no quantum way in science that's just showing what is love. You feel it, and everybody feels it in different ways, in different strengths, in different areas. You feel it in different capacities with different people. And so, for each individual, that is very different. And so there's no scientific data on, love and how we feel that, but it exists. It exists absolutely. And I believe that above any other emotion or any other thing in this whole world, love is the most ultimate feeling and power that resides in this world. And it is the ultimate power that allows us to be able to heal and get better and to create a better life for ourselves. So I believe in so many different things. So I believe in God. I believe that God is a higher power that has created all. I believe in Jesus. I believe in also the indigenous, Native Americans and the stuff that they talked about and believe in, and, all of the herbs and plants and how important Mother Earth is, and blessing Mother Earth and taking care of Mother Earth because she is also a consciousness, and how trees and plants have a consciousness as well. And actually over the last 20 years, there's been so much more actual studies showing that plants do have a consciousness and trees have a consciousness. And the more you kind of dive into the spiritual aspect, meeting the science aspect of trees and plant life, it is fascinating. It's mind-blowing, actually, and how trees actually talk to each other. And there's, I was listening to this thing, actually, I don't ever listen to the radio with CBC News or anything like that. I'm in Canada, so it's one of our news stations. I'm definitely never listened to mainstream news. But this one day, about 10 years ago, I turned on the radio, and they were talking about the consciousness of trees. And they were talking about the science that they have behind it, where they actually had hooked up electromagnetic fields to different trees. And when one tree that was close by, an older tree that was cut down, how the energy and the vibration of those other trees shifted. And they were all in mourning of this tree. And they were all, somehow communicating with one another about what had just happened, not in the way we speak or anything like that, clearly, but it was showing that there was energy going on, and there's a vibration, and there was a consciousness that happens. And then they got in deeper with one of my favorite topics in the whole entire world, which is mushrooms and medicinal mushrooms of all types. And as you guys know, if you watched a lot of my other videos, or how I healed my body years ago from taking lion's mane mushroom, that mushrooms have a consciousness of their own as well, and how they can help to heal people's bodies in different variety of ways. Really amazing for the immune system and such. And I have been studying and taking different medicinal mushrooms for again, like I said, over 2 decades. And the health experience and the mental experience that I've had through taking the mushrooms has really changed my life in so many ways. And so that's why I have an ongoing obsession with mushrooms. And if you want to know more and we need to do more videos on mushrooms, then I would gladly do that for you guys too. So I have a big like love for all plant life, all animal life, and how that the earth, as you see in my last video where I was talking about grounding yourself in the winter and or in the spring and summer, you know, when you're grounding yourself, that the earth has an electromagnetic field, and so do we. And so it's really important to understand that us as a whole being, for us, in order for us to be our highest, best source of health, that, you know, when we're walking around thinking that, okay, I got a cold because I caught it from Sarah Joe or Sarah Jane and, you know, Matthew, blah, 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 and now I have, you know, I have to go get antibiotics for this. That is just one tiny little speck on the spectrum of what is actually really happening within ourselves. Because we also run on we are electromagnetic beings, we are energetic beings. And so when we are in lower states, so if you look at any Stephen Hawking stuff where he talks about the vibrational chart of how we resonate as humans. So the happier we are, the higher on a higher frequency we are, the higher we are vibrating. And so the higher, more excited, more happier, more joyful that we are, then we have a better health. The more optimistic you are, the more, you know, non-A-type, you know, everything, or perfectionist, the more you're more laid back with stuff and more letting things kind of roll off your shoulder, you are going to be a healthier person. There's just tons of data, tons of science that shows that. So when we are in a state of lower, you know, thinking, we're consuming lots of different things like news, media, social, all of those things that lower our vibration and create on the subconscious mind more fear. And this is so interesting, you guys, because I talk to a lot of people about this, people that are maybe in ill health, you know, suffering from depression or anxiety and stuff. And I talk to them about social media and they're like, oh, that doesn't affect me. That doesn't affect me. When in reality, there is a very, very strong association from what you are consuming to what is playing on your subconscious mind. So it's running in the background. It's running when you're sleeping. It's running, you know, when you are making decisions on things and you don't really know why you're making certain decisions on things. It's running on your emotions on a background too. And so being really, really cognizant of that can really help to shift your life, because it really does make a big impact. So when we are out in nature and we're making sure that we're making those intentional steps to get out into nature. And you know, back in the day when they would make fun of people that are like, oh, that's a tree hugger. Well, when you're hugging a tree, there's actually like science now that is showing what all of us empaths have known for, you know, centuries, which is it does have an energy to it. And when you are touching nature, like on the ground, your bare feet on the ground, you know, you have a bathing suit on, you're laying on the ground or on the sand, or you're hugging a tree, there is an energy that happens and helps you raise your vibrational frequency, raising your immune system, raising your health, helping to elevate your mood. There is an association with this. So the reason why I kind of wanted to get into this with you guys is because I know that right now in every area, there is so much fear being put out to us, and it is becoming magnified, and we don't even realize it because we're like, oh, everybody's angry at this particular situation that is going on in the world right now, or 2 or 3 situations that are going on in the world. And then all of a sudden, everybody starts to chime in about this particular thing that is going on. And we have to realize and remember, all of us conscious beings, energetic beings out there, we need to remember that where our attention goes, energy flows. So the more we're all focused and we are all putting our mind on what we don't want, hell, oh my gosh, that person's awful, and we're screaming at how this person's awful, that person's awful, how we hate this or hate that, then what ends up happening is that we are giving that person more power unintentionally. We are building that power of what that is because we're putting so much focus and attention on that. And so fear will do that. Fear will do that to us. Now, there's a very big difference, and I need to make this very clear to you guys. There's a very big difference between being focused on something in fear and freaking out about it and saying no and fighting about it, and standing in your power and in your being saying, I'm not going to put up with this, but you're not also going at it with anger and hatred. You're like, I am not going to tolerate this. We as a consciousness community, us as our fellow humans, can stand together and unite with this and all say, no, as a collective. We need to do this as a collective. Things that we know that are destroying our world, destroying our health. So such as, one of the biggest things that are kind of going on right now, not biggest, but big things, which is, there's lots of poor food. Like there is food dyes in our foods. There's chemicals, horrible chemicals. You look at certain foods that are not even foods at all and really shouldn't be on the market at all. Like look at, I'm sorry, I'm going to call it out, but Doritos. When you look at the ingredients in that's there's nothing in there that is food. It is a chemical, and you're putting it in. People are giving it to their kids. That's just one thing. But there's like lots of candy and other different types of foods that people are intaking on a daily basis that have no nutritional value, but are actually severely hindering their health. And then you take a look at, other things that are going on that's out there that's massively hindering people's health. And we can take a stand and be like, we don't want this. Like, look at how farming is being done. We are destroying our earth with all the GMOs and all of the pesticides that they're putting everywhere. And, we've been brainwashed by certain people. We don't need to go into particular who, but you can kind of guess who was a big factor in the GMO and promoting it and everything, and making people feel fearful that there's not enough food to go around, so we need to have these GMOs, which is a complete lie. And then the more people that jump on that bandwagon and start to have that belief system, then that creates a consciousness around that, and then people believe that that is true, which it is not. Mother Earth is here to provide for us, and if we treat her with the kindness, love, and respect that she deserves, then there is plenty of food to go around. All the souls that have been brought into this world, we have been brought into this world for a purpose, and none of us are here to, we're brought in here to just be like, oh, well, we don't need that, or we don't need this soul, or we don't need this soul, like we've had a purpose. And a lot of people obviously stray from their purpose, stray from, the connection with themselves and with God. But we were born as babies, brought here for purpose. And so there's plenty to go around. There is just how we have been doing our farming practices, and how, a lot of people have moved to the cities. And so a lot of people are not creating their own gardens anymore. And, I think that we're in a movement where we're going to start to go back to that, because we're seeing that a lot of the stuff that's going on, especially in a lot of big cities and stuff, they're not getting what they need to have. And so having community gardens and having, gardens maybe even like on people's little patios or in homes is something that is starting to spark more awareness, and that we need to do. We need to start to be able to provide for ourselves and go back to the way things were, because our soil is becoming more and more and more depleted. So because we're putting all of these pesticides and herbicides and insecticides and there's like hundreds of different chemicals that they're putting on the soil, is that every time it's being harvested and then, situated and everything, then what happens is that every single time, then the soil has become more and more depleted of the nutrients that we need. Like already, the soil is severely depleted of magnesium, which is why like 90% of humans are so hugely deficient in magnesium. And that has been a topic of mine for, 30 years of going out and doing seminars and teaching people on that, because we dramatically need that for a whole variety of reasons for our whole body, our system, our central nervous system, our brain, our being able to absorb other supplements and vitamins and minerals. We require magnesium, and a really good source is magnesium. So that is another thing that is happening, that, you know, as a consciousness and a collective, we can stand together and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We're going to stand as a collective and say, no, this isn't going to happen, and we are not going to allow it to happen. And the reason why I bring this video up and why this is so essential too is that we have to remember there's probably, like, you know, there's just a handful of the top people out there, and there's all of us as citizens that can stand and make these decisions in a better way. But when we are spewing so much hate and we are yelling things on Facebook, that is getting us nowhere. Like, or whatever social media platform you're on, it's not getting us anywhere. It's just a whole bunch of noise, and it's giving those other people more power. So standing as a collective, standing in ourselves, and this is what I want to go back to you guys as well. It is going back to everything on the micro spreads out to the macro. And so everything that's going on in the world is usually a big reflection of what's going on in our inner selves. So you guys can probably take a look, and maybe some of you, like, this is like probably on a big scale, but maybe there's a few of you that this didn't happen to, which was when we went through what we went through like 4 years ago when we had the virus that was everywhere. Take a look at what was going on in your life at that time. I would say almost every single person during that time had a big life change. So either, you know, big life changes with, you know, people maybe passing away, maybe people going through relationship issues, maybe people that were losing their homes, lost their jobs, big situational things maybe. And then they're on the other spectrum that I've heard so much of as well, which is where a lot of people had to take a deep dive into themselves because they were at home all the time. And so what happened is that there was a ton of spiritual growth that actually ended up taking place with a lot of people because they had no other choice. They weren't going to work. There was, you know, nothing to do. They couldn't go to stores. They couldn't, you know, numb themselves with certain things that they normally typically would do. And so they had to go into the dark night of the soul, work on themselves, and, you know, become a better version of themselves. So I don't know if you've seen this as well, but almost every single human during that time went through a huge evolution. It went through a huge evolution. And so sometimes in life, and I know this is going to maybe hit hard to some of you when I say this, because as a human, it sucks. It sucks so bad. But as a bird's eye view from like a higher consciousness way of looking at things, sometimes things in life, such as a lot of things that are going on right now in the world, things are being shaken up, and it's causing a lot of turmoil, and we don't like it. But what sometimes needs to happen is that when we're complacent for too long, and there's all this stuff that's still happening in the backgrounds, it's just not at the surface, that all this, you know, maybe terrorism and evilness and bad things that are going on in the world weren't present to a lot of the mainstream people because it was so hidden. And what's happening right now is that there is a big shift. So everything is being shaken up. It doesn't feel good. We are kind of like freaking out about a lot of things. But in that shaking up of things, the other stuff that's been there for centuries, decades, whatever, is being brought to the surface. And we're able to take a look at it and be like, these government systems, nope, don't work for us. These, you know, ways of being controlled over us, nope. All the things that are hidden with big pharma, nope, we're not going to take that anymore. We want more exposure to what has been going on within that. We want to know the people that are behind the scenes with this. We want to take a look at more documentation. We need to be able to see a lot of the things that have been suppressed for so long. And then we have all the other really horrific stuff that I'm not going to go into in this video because I just don't want to bring that energy up. But you guys know, there's a lot of terrifying and horrible things. So all of that is being brought to our forefront so that we can take a look and we can, as a collective, be able to say, I'm done with this. We don't want this anymore. And sometimes, and different countries are going to be, you know, operating at different levels and at different speeds. So there's some countries, you know, I'm Canadian. We're such a happy, kind country. And we've been complacent really long time for a lot of different reasons. And I don't know if you've seen our government, but we've been really kind of being bulldozed for a long time. But now what's happening is I see more people kind of standing up for what they believe is not okay, and that, you know, all of these taxes and all of these things that are going on is not right. Like, this is not okay for us as citizens here. You know, we're good people, we work hard, we love our country, and that we want it to go back to the way it was, but ultimately we want to make it better. Ultimately better than it's ever been. And so I think that there's a big shift within that. And so why I'm bringing all this up to you guys is because we can't change the outer world until we've changed the inner world. And so if you're just out there feeling angry, you're out there being sick, you're out there walking around in a system, I just have to make sure my microphone is still on. We're walking around in a system where we're unhappy with our life, and we're, you know, eating at fast food restaurants all the time, and we're dulling ourselves out with alcohol or drugs or whatever, then we can't be the best version of ourselves to magnify that outside of ourselves. And so it's really important for us to take a look at, okay, so what are my habits? What am I doing? Am I connected with myself? Most people aren't. And how do I start to reconnect? And so the grounding videos that I did in the past, you can take a look at those, because that is number one, really essential. And it seems so light, it seems so like frivolous, but when you are beginning to reconnect yourself with nature, which is part of us, we are part of nature, it is part of us, then your heart chakra starts to open up, your energy centers start to open up. Now I know, you know, if you're on the religious side of things, you don't believe in chakras, but we are energy, and we all have just different energy systems. So however you want to take that and utilize it within yourself, then that is fine. We can use different words for different things. Some people don't like the word God, they like universal source, or they like whatever that is to you. I use God, I use energy systems, I use chakras. So our heart chakra starts to begin to open. And when our heart chakra can start to open again, then we can start to have more empathy, compassion, and love for our fellow humans. Because right now, you know, we're in a really big deficit with that. And so connecting with earth, connecting with your animals, connecting with being in silence without your phone is really, really important. Starting to read books that really enhance your life, and getting into some kind of practice that puts you into silence. So whether that be meditation or prayer or reading or listening to beautiful music. And again, everything has a frequency and an energy to it. So the different music that we listen to affect our body on a very deep level, on a cellular level. And it affects our body on our health. And a lot of people don't realize that. So when you're listening to, and I know a lot of you guys, I'm so sorry, but I love you if you love gangster rap. Well, if you're taking a look at the energy behind it and the words that are coming from that, and that's playing on your subconscious mind, that is changing the vibrational frequency of your cells, because our cells operate, every single one of them operate on a certain frequency. So when we start to listen to loving, joyful music, that is vibrating them at a higher rate. When we're listening to, like I said, gangster rap or, you know, really dark, heavy metal, that is lowering our vibration, our frequency. And I can go way deeper into those types of things and what can happen and energetically and stuff around us, but I'm not going to go into that today. But it really does affect us. And be aware of that, because if you're playing that around your kids, then that is affecting their energy and their vibration and their mind. And literally how they can focus and how they fall asleep at night and how good of a quality of sleep that they have. The quality of relationships that can actually even happen in your life, because everything vibrates out. So taking a really deep look on where you are at in your life for yourself and working on you. If you don't like what is going on in the world right now, as crazy as this might sound to you, is to really focus on yourself. Take a deep breath in. Ask yourself some really deep questions. Are you having really good sleep? Are you establishing good eating habits? And don't go all or nothing, because for a lot of people, that's too much. Start with 3 things this week or for the next 2 weeks, or even maybe you have to only start 3 things for this month. And then you keep it going and you keep that progress going, because everything starts to develop a new habit, which eventually will create a new lifestyle for you. And it becomes easier. And so going into the food aspect of things, you guys, I will tell you that the higher the vibration you are, those lower vibrational foods that maybe you once were addicted to or in love with, they won't resonate with you anymore. You won't want them anymore. You won't desire them anymore, because your consciousness is on a different plane, and you will enjoy having better quality foods. Like, you will feel the resonance of that. When you're putting in organic, good quality foods, you are going to feel better, and that you are going to see the difference of when you have a poor quality food. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on before I end this video is that this might not resonate with some, but I just want you to ponder this. Just ponder this. The other thing is, we also, when we're in the state of fear, when we're in a lower vibration, we cannot attract different illnesses and diseases if we are not in a vibrational match with that. Let that sink in for a second. So when we were all in that fear state a few years ago, and everybody, when you're in fear, your immune system takes a plummet. It takes a plummet. And so if something were to come up in the world that seems chaotic and crazy and scary, we need to disconnect from that. You need to, because you need to go in and you need to keep your mind healthy, sane, and stable. Because when you're in a higher frequency where you're feeling joy and you're feeling good, because although there's all that going on out there, there's multi-billions, trillions of really great things that are still going on. We're just not being shown that. So we can affect our immune system by what we are feeling and thinking. It is so powerful. And it's really important for me to say that. I really wanted to get that out today, and just let that sink in. Just like ponder that and think that through. So anyways, you guys, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I really hope that you can join me for my next upcoming videos that I have, because my goal is to help move you away from fear, move you in a state of health, vitality, and just really starting to love your life again. So I'll talk to you on the next video.